Formula One is the pinnacle of motorsport, the place where the best car manufacturers come to compete. But the most successful team on the grid right now is not a car manufacturer, but instead an energy drinks company. The Red Bull setup has been on the grid for 20 years and has become one of the most consistently strong teams at the front of the order. But the team have made the decision to keep Sergio Pérez alongside Max Verstappen for 2025 with an option for 2026. But despite getting this new contract, Perez is not performing for the team, and his results are consistently a long way behind Verstappen, as other teams have caught up to Red Bull. So is the decision to retain Perez a sign that the team isn't too bothered about the Constructors' Championship? Well, I think there are 4 reasons why this might be the case. Let's have a look. My name's Andy, and this is Behind the Drive. Reason 1. Red Bull don't make cars. For many teams, the reason they race in Formula One is to win and sell cars. Major manufacturers like Mercedes, Ferrari and Aston Martin are in the sport for this very reason, which begs the question as to how an energy drink manufacturer has managed to get into the sport and even beat these manufacturer teams. Obviously, Red Bull don't make cars, but they are instead fundamentally in the sport to sell energy drinks, which I think is the first reason why they don't really care about the Constructors' Championship. When you're looking to purchase a vehicle, you want to have a lot of trust in the manufacturer. It helps to see the performance on track, and this is exactly why many manufacturers invest millions in this sport, and many more are either joining the grid soon or frequently rumoured to join the sport in the future. However, given Red Bull is only trying to sell energy drinks, their car is a very fast advert. And perhaps it is more powerful for Red Bull to have a popular figure drinking a can of Red Bull than it is for the team to win the Constructors' Championship. And in the driver lineup of Max Verstappen, they actually capture a huge segment of the motorsport audience. Of course, Verstappen is a popular, if divisive, figure, but given he wins most weeks and is talented enough to take a car that isn't the best to the front of the order, then he will certainly get the airtime to become a figure that is heavily associated with Red Bull. Sergio Pérez captures the Latin American market and is an incredibly popular driver in that region, to the extent that Helmut Marko has shared the fact that they sell more Perez merchandise in that area than Verstappen merch, which is surprising considering Verstappen is the one winning each and every week. So on the whole, from a marketing point of view, I think it's safe to say that the Drivers' Championship gets far more eyeballs than the Constructors' Championship. More fans of the sport support a driver than they do a particular team, and particularly since Drive to Survive, the drivers themselves have become personalities, which, in my view at least, will sell energy drinks. As such, Red Bull arguably has no reason to care about the Constructors' Championship. Reason number 2. The team aren't confident in Verstappen's future. Max Verstappen is Red Bull's star driver. The team have had the driver on the books since 2014 when he joined their junior team, and he was accelerated through the ranks, spending just a single full season in the Toro Rosso before gaining his promotion to Red Bull in 2016. Since then, he's continued to develop and is now a driver that is undoubtedly the most consistent on the grid. He very rarely puts a foot wrong and has the talent and pace to compete even when the Red Bull car isn't the best on a given weekend. You'd expect that given the Red Bull team are in such a strong position right now, there would be no doubt that Verstappen would remain in his current position until the end of his contract in 2028. However, this isn't necessarily the case. The team has seen controversy this season, and as a result, the team's technical mastermind, Adrian Newey, is set to leave the team at the beginning of next year. This is something that Verstappen has shared his disappointment about already in 2024, and it has triggered several rumours over whether he would potentially leave the team that has supported him to 3 and likely 4 Drivers' Championships. Despite having a contract to 2028, he is able to leave the team if Helmut Marko leaves as well, something that Marko said he would trigger should Max Verstappen make the call. So while I can't imagine Verstappen is too worried about who is racing alongside him in the Red Bull, it must be said that there's no doubt that even on a bad weekend, the Dutchman will comfortably beat his teammate on any given weekend at the moment. This is good for Verstappen and hasn't been an issue over the last few years. There is a good bond between Verstappen and Perez as well, and the pair worked incredibly well together in 2021, where Perez did make a difference in Abu Dhabi to hold up Lewis Hamilton. What would be interesting to see is whether Verstappen continues to be happy with Perez if other teams with 2 strong drivers start to pile on the pressure. Right now, Perez is nowhere to be seen. He's behind the McLarens, Ferraris, and now Mercedes cars as well, and this means he's simply unable to have much influence on the frontrunners. But should McLaren or Ferrari start to pile more pressure on Verstappen from a strategic point of view, things could change. Based on the way this season is going, I wouldn't be surprised to see a race where Verstappen is left vulnerable from a strategic point of view because he doesn't have a teammate in the fight. But from Red Bull's point of view, they want to keep their star driver happy, and rightfully so. So why upset the apple cart by changing his teammate? Reason 3. The alternatives to Perez aren't good enough. Red Bull are a team that like to promote from within. They invest heavily in their junior drivers and even have a second team on the grid to support their development. Having said this, it doesn't really feel like the RB team has been utilised properly for a few years now. And Red Bull haven't brought in a new young driver out of their academy since Yuki Tsunoda in 2021. Since then, the team have brought in an experienced driver in Ricciardo, and now, with Tsunoda confirmed to remain in one of those seats for 2025, there remains a question of who will race alongside him next year. There are plenty of potential candidates to get into that seat. Liam Lawson is the obvious one who immediately impressed during his stand-in races in 2023, but there's also Ayumu Iwasa or Isaac Hadjar, who are both potentially sensible options. But this situation means that the second team has failed to deliver what it should do. Fundamentally, right now, none of the options readily available to Red Bull were ready for this top team seat, and to replace Sergio Pérez. Daniel Ricciardo has been disappointing since his return to the grid, and really he's been disappointing since he joined McLaren. And while Yuki Tsunoda has been impressive for a couple of years now, he's never really been seriously considered for a drive with Red Bull. So to replace Sergio Pérez, the team would have had to look externally, and while there were options available to them, namely Carlos Sainz, this would have set up a driver pairing that was described as toxic by Helmut Marko when they were paired together in 2015. And, to the point of keeping Verstappen happy, would have likely upset the apple cart. So it's Red Bull's own doing, but they don't have any viable alternative drivers to take on the Red Bull seat alongside Verstappen, and going externally once again would have likely been a significant risk. Reason number 4. The curse of the seat alongside Verstappen. And this risk is exactly the other reason why Red Bull have gone with the status quo of keeping Sergio Pérez at the team for 2025. The team have had a bit of a challenge with the seat for 6 years now, with 3 drivers being unable to get close to Verstappen. The best year for the team's pairing was last season, when Sergio Pérez finished second in the Drivers' Championship, albeit with less than half the number of points of Verstappen. But having said this, in 2023 the team had by far the most dominant car with a record-breaking season, so it would be expected that the most number 2 drivers in the Red Bull would still finish well in that car. In 2024 though, things have all changed. The season is far more competitive, with potentially even 4 teams with a chance of getting in the mix for race victories each weekend. This means that while the Red Bull car is still one of the best, Sergio Pérez has plummeted down the order. It's clear that this season Max Verstappen is the difference maker for the team, and if they had 2 drivers of Perez's standard, then they perhaps wouldn't even be close to the front. This isn't anything new though. The team had similar challenges with Pierre Gasly and Alex Albon, who were both in that second Red Bull seat when their car wasn't the best on the grid. During this time, there was lots of speculation over the so-called curse of the second Red Bull seat. Fundamentally, they were looking for an incredibly talented driver who could be there to pick up the pieces if Verstappen lost out due to reliability issues. But those drivers have all been picked up by the other top teams in the sport, so the driver pool that Red Bull has to choose from for their second seat is actually very limited. With Sergio Pérez they have a known quantity, a driver that they know is capable of winning races, and one that at times can support Verstappen. But right now, he's not even close. And as a result, I think Red Bull are at risk of losing out on the Constructors' Championship in 2024, and most likely in 2025 as well. But personally, I don't think Red Bull are too worried. They still have Verstappen winning most races and being the brand ambassador that they want. Let me know what you think about this topic in the comments, and make sure to subscribe to Behind the Drive.